So if yeah, it's going to let me log in. Hopefully it won't go right back to installing updates. Thought I mistyped something, so look. Hi, okay. Yes, I know. I don't care. I have to wait for this. There's another big update coming down the line, but Microsoft stopped it for a while because some people were hanging. It was killing some machines. So they've stopped it, but when they fixed whatever was hanging the machines, they probably put out another. It's another big update, which is basically like reinstalling Windows.
And then we'll give you the option if you want to save it.
So supposedly the new update, once it's done, you actually will have some options for like deferring updates, which you don't have in this current version, unless you're on a server, unless you're hooked to a network with a server. All right, come on, you can do it. Yes, I know. It actually is good to do the updates, except in here it doesn't matter. Everything gets wiped at the end of the quarter, this one particular. But at home, I mean, if you'd done your updates, there would be no chance of getting the that virus that was going around, the ransomware one. They updated it like a year ago. All right, let's see if I can get in here then. So I'm going to bring up the Visual Studio. And the other thing, I think I said it in weirdly in the SQL class where it doesn't matter, but Visual Studio 2017 has now got Python support again. I mean, you may not care, but Python is a lot easier to write in Visual Studio than it is in Idle. Because you got IntelliSense and color codes. And all right, so the very first thing I'm going to do is I am going to open up the service assignment. And I'll walk through it real quickly again, and then we'll do the client. I think the older I get, the less patient I am with all these green lines moving across. When I was young and starting on computers in the 90s, late 80s, everything took 40 minutes. All right. Now, I'm curious if the database connections are there too after the update. All right. So the important parts here are the interface. I'm just going to repeat this real quickly. I won't spend a lot of time on it. So let's don't look at the data members yet. Let's just look at the interface. So the interface is basically just a list of the methods that you're going to have. This is the part that gets sent, and I'll try to show it to you when we're in the client. It gets sent to the client. It basically says there's a method called login. This is the API, right? There's a method called login. It returns an integer and takes 2 strings. And it will also tell you that there's a register reviewer that takes a object reviewer as a parameter and returns a true or false boolean. You know, and then the operation contract will return a list of the get the books, and then this one, you know, basically it'll just give you this information. That's the API. The data classes are actually not required. You don't have to do it. You can use the classes that it gives you. The reason I did this, and this one isn't particularly useful to do, but the reason that I did it is to show that you can do this. And sometimes it's easier, like with the community assist, the person and address and contact information is split into 3 tables. Sometimes it's nicer to pass it as one thing than 3 things. So you can make your own data class to store it all together. And there might be some other bits of data that you need to store that aren't part of the database. The data contract basically just gives you a class to store bundles of data. Don't have to make them unless they're just, you need them in there. So that's most of what we did. And then the service, the point of the service is it has to take everything in the interface and it has to give it a body, right? It has to do the actual code. And my code's a little more complicated and it needed to be partially because I wanted to show you something that you probably would need to do in yours. Do you guys have any questions on all of that? So this is what we were doing. Most of you were really close to being done. Some of you were done. All right, so I'm going to run this. And when I run it, I'm going to get that dialog box, which is the test dialog box. More green lines. Okay, so notice the address here. And if I click on that and then right click, it has a copy address. You could probably do Control C too. So I copy the address. And I'm going to leave this running. Again, if we had done this more real world, we would have put it into IIS, right? So we wouldn't have to do that. There would be an address related to the IIS. But because we did it the way we did it for convenience, it also would have been less mobile. If we'd done it where it was in IIS, it would have been an incredible pain to take it home and work on. You probably would have had to just recreate it all at home. So I'm going to minimize that and this. And I'm going down here. It's hard to see because it's slightly off screen, but there's an icon for Visual Studio. The way to start a second instance of Visual Studio is basically just to right click on that and do Visual Studio. And it will launch a second instance of Visual Studio, which surprisingly doesn't seem to hurt performance that much. Now, I didn't test the database. Let's see if that'll expand. Yeah, so I'm okay. I just wanted to make sure that the server was ready. All right, are we ready then for the next part? Yeah, so you leave the test running. You really can't, if you close it, it stops it. All right, so there's 2, notice when I put on the icon, there's 2 of them down here. There's the service assignment running, and then I'm starting the second. One of the things you probably will happen more than once as you're doing this is you'll forget to have your service running, and you'll get errors that it can't, do stuff, and that's probably because the service isn't running. Yeah.
When I open the second one, I don't see the command key 6.
Oh, it doesn't matter. I mean, you can add it if you want. The thing about this, with the Server Explorer here, these connections, they don't carry over to the application. This is Visual Studio connected to the database. It's not your application connected to the database. So you can add it if you want. But and it is kind of useful sometimes just to see the data. In the real world, probably, though, if you were an application developer coming to the service, you wouldn't have any permissions on the database. you wouldn't be able to open the database. You would only have permissions on the service. Does that make sense? The service would have permissions on the database. You would have permissions for the service. You wouldn't have any permissions for the database. All right, so I'm going to do a new website, same as we've always done. And it'll be an empty website, and I will call it, what do I want to call it? Book Review Client. You can name yours whatever. I do want to say too that generally this side of the project is easier than the service side, because basically you're just using the methods at this point. So as usual, let me just close that. We've got an empty website, has nothing in it, right? Before I do anything else, just because I don't want to forget to do it, I'm going to right click on the project and I'm going to add. And what I want to add is a service reference, right? So we're going to add a reference to our service. A lot of services that are available out in the world cost money. And so you would have to you'd have to pay them to get the reference, basically, if that makes sense. Not all of them cost money, but a lot of them do. So I'm going to do service reference. You don't want to do just reference. What reference does is it gives you a list of the .NET libraries that are not currently installed. And there's a lot of them because you don't need them all, right? But like if you wanted to do Office, you wanted to program something that interacts with Office, there are libraries for that. You know, there are lots of different things. So I'm going to paste the address in here, and I'm going to say go. And if everything is good, notice it has book review service. And if I click that little thing there, it gives the actual service. Notice it says iBook Review Service, and it's basically the interface. So it has get books by author, login, and register review. So it has the methods that we did. I don't know that I want to do this, but let's do advanced. Yeah, it doesn't show me a lot. Gives you a little bit more information. I'm just going to cancel that. I'm just going to do, let's name it something other than service reference 1. I'm going to call it book rev reference, but you can name it whatever. It's just that service reference 1, particularly if you're tying in multiple services, which we're not, but if you're tied in multiple services, it could get quite complicated to figure out which service is doing what. So it's a good idea to name them. I'm going to show you some stuff now that doesn't matter, but it's the XML stuff. So this is what a WSDL document looks like as XML. Notice there's a SOAP address location. It's all kind of inside of a SOAP document, I believe. Maybe not. Again, this is just to show you the stuff that is sent over. Generally, you don't want to mess with it. Let's see if I can there's the XSD. Typically, I wonder if I can look at it as XML. I want to look at it as XML. Does it have view code in here? View code. All right, there's the XML for the schema. And again, for the most part, this is just stuff you can ignore, but it's there. And if you were doing this from scratch, like if you're doing it in PHP or something else, you might have to actually write all of these things, which is probably why people go to JSON. Okay. So I just wanted to show you that that was all there. And it actually creates a class that we can use, and I'll show that in a moment. I didn't necessarily want that to show. All right, so having done that, do you guys need me to go through adding a service again? You do? Okay. I will take it all the way up to the point of doing it. I won't do it again. But I will do right-click, add, service reference. You paste in the address that you got from the running thing, and you do go. Okay, and then you can look at this to make sure that it has the methods that you want. Give it a name, and then do OK. But I'm going to cancel it because it'll be confusing if I don't. And I can help you do that if you need. You only need to do it once. All right. This is every page will have this reference now. You don't have to do. But you will have to, kind of like with the data entities, you'll have to make the class reference. But we'll do this first. We'll do the login page. So this time I'm going to add a web form. And I'm going to do OK. Now we could, I'm going to do it from scratch because I think it, but you could almost import the web pages from your other assignment. What? I just did new web form. Yeah. So I did right-click, add web form. So you'd have to find it. Let's see if I can do. I'd probably want to do. So you could do add existing item, and then you'd have to go browse. So let's go up. Data entities example. Where are my? Oh, there's default page, but where are the rest of the pages? So websites, book review client, which I'm doing, data entities example. I thought I had more web pages in there. But you could look at this and you could just add it. Now, a couple of things about, I don't know why that isn't there though. Oh, you know, I might have done it on the desktop. Let me try one more time. I'm not going to do the login page because I've already got a default here. So let's add an existing item. Let's go to desktop because I think I put the main entities example here. And if I were to do like register, I could add that. And if I were to look at the register, I want the actual, everything is there, including the validators, right? So if I do the validators, what else do I have to do? You guys remember? The validators require, has it been that long? jQuery. So basically what I'm going to do is, I had meant to do this, but I just imported my register page, but I also imported all of those validator controls because they were in the web page. So I need to go to browse. I need to do, so it's ASP.NET.S. So script manager jQuery, and I need to install it. And then all of those things will work. Right. So it installs all the jQuery. And again, I'll go through that again. This is only if you import it, but if you're going to do the, if you're going to do the validation controls, you will have to do that at some point. So I right-click, manage nougat, I guess, or nugget. What do you think it would be? I think nougat and I think candy bar. Nugget? I don't know. When you do that, you do browse. If I do installed right now, it shows that. If I do browse, I could do, again, ASP.NET .s for script manager. And it shows that, and you can install that. Just hit install. Right now it's uninstalled. And then it'll be there. That's all you have to do. It just has to be there.
We show how you edit the register page, so you don't have to write the register page.
So I could do, so I added the register page, and I guess I could add another page. Add existing item. And then you browse to where, so I did author lists that time. I'm going to do book lists this time, so there's nothing here more that I want. But you just choose the page that you want, and you bring it in, right? So I did the register, and that's what I recorded. There can be dangers to do this. I'll probably have to do, so the code behind page, this has all got to be changed, right? Or at least some of this has got to be changed. So the issue about importing things, I probably shouldn't have even mentioned it. So it's nice, it saves you some work, but it can also make new work. And it could be new work that's confusing because you have code there that's no longer valid because you're in a different context. Does that make sense? This is actually, though, I think we can change this pretty easily. Let's leave it for now. And when we get there, if you want, I can delete the page and build it from scratch, or we can use the imported one. I just wanted to let you know that you can, you didn't have to redo all of the pages necessarily. So let's go back to the default, because the login is actually very simple, right? I'm just going to do, I'll do it as an H2, or should it be an H1? It's the first one. I'm just going to say login. I'll give it a title, which I often forget to do. I'm going to just do a simple table, which is not necessary. You don't have to have the table. But what you do want is the what's in the TDs, right? So I'm going to bring over, I'm going to click on the toolbox here, I'm going to close that. I want, actually the first TD I could just say username. And then I can do a TD and just bring in a text box. Right there, down near the bottom, text box. And again, I'll name the text box something. So I've been doing a really verbose naming thing for that. So I'm going to say user text box. Right, so the parts that you need are some kind of prompt in a text box, right? Whether you put it in a table or not. The table just makes it look neater. So then I can copy this if I'm doing the table. And this one I'll just say password. And I'll change this to password text box and get rid of the one. And then the last thing, and if you want, you can break it to be online. I'll do one more row, although this one is going to be different. I'm going to put a button in the first text box. So back up to where the B's are. And I'll just call it submit button. And I will do submit as the text. And this, instead of a text box, although you could leave the text box if you really wanted to. I'm going to bring in a label. And the label, I'll just call it result label. And you can take the text out of it if you want. And when I look at the design, and I'll come back to the code if you want. I mean, that is just a simple login. All right, so I'm going to, do you guys need a minute with that, or you got it? You could also import your default from the other one if you want it, because the login here is exactly like that, except I did password. Let's change that to password. Let me know when you're ready, and I'll show you how to do the code, and then it'll be very simple. I will post this too on GitHub, and then I thought I had one from last quarter on GitHub. But I think what I did on last quarter, and I did delete these, is we did the actual assignment together because we were so far behind. Everybody ready? You guys kind of waiting. So I'm going to go to this design and just double click the button again. It's the best way to get there for the submit button. And I'm just going to make a reference to my service. So what did I call it? I called it book revs reference dot book review service client. I'm just going to say SC or service client equals new, all of that again. And I will break this line so it's all on screen. You do not have to break it like that, but you can. So all I've done there is I've made the reference to the service, right? Because we imported the service. I called it book rev service. If you didn't name it, it would be service reference 1. And then this is the book review service client, right? That's what we did. This is just a variable for that, and then we make it new. So, because it makes a class out of it that you can access. So I'm going to do int result equals sc dot, and we should be able to see login. And I'm going to do a parentheses, and it says that it needs a user, so I'm going to do user text box dot text. Again, probably it'd be better to validate these first. User, actually password text box dot text. In this case, it's going to return 0 or their key, right? So I'm going to real quickly just say if result not equal 0. Oops, those should be curly braces. Then I'm going to create a session variable. And I will call it, in square brackets this time. Let's just do user key again. This time you can say it equals the result, because the result will be their key. And then for right now, I'm going to say result label. Dot text equals welcome. I am having trouble typing. And then I'll do an else. So this one will just be result label text equals invalid login or something. Okay. Does that make sense? We're making a reference to the service. We're just calling the service method to log in. It will return the key or 0. So if it's not equal to 0, we're going to save what we get back as a session, and we're going to say welcome, and otherwise we'll say invalid login. All right, so let me look. We'll test this. Let me look at, I don't have I'm going to make a quick data connection. And the reason I'm doing this is I just don't remember any logins. Localhost. All right, so we've got reviewer. I'm just going to look at the data. So we need a username. Let's do something like we did Lewis before, right? John Doe we've added. Tester test. So it's Jason Pass, Jay Anderson. I'm just going to copy this. All right, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to run this and see if the login works. So I'm using Jay Anderson, Jason Anderson. Oh, there's errors. What errors? Oh, you know what the error is? Let's go to register CS. Yeah, it's because I imported this. You know what I'm going to do for right now? I'm going to comment that all out. Did you guys know that there was a little button up there that would comment out a block? Okay, good. You can uncomment it with the one next to it. So let's go back to default. All right. It was because we had the old reference there. Didn't know what to do with it. So I'm going to, so what was, oh, I pasted it. And then it was Anderson Pass or was it Jason Pass? It was first name Pass. And I think it was all lower. Invalid login. Was it Anderson Pass? I thought it was Jason Pass. Let me look. It was Anderson Pass. Still says it's invalid. Let me look again. I can't look while it's running. It was Jason Pass. Outlook.com. That should have worked. Oh, that's not his username. The username is Jay Anderson. In Community Assist, the email is the username, but it wasn't here. Yeah. In Community Assist, I was consistent, but I'm not here. All right, come on, you can do. I just want to test. It's always a good idea to test this. So it was Jay Anderson, right? Actually, I copied it. And then it was Jason Pass. And it does say welcome. Now, one of the things I'm curious about is, did I get the right key back? So let's do this real quickly. And I'm just going to say, I'm going to put a space there and do a plus result toString. And this is just so I can see the key, just to be sure. And then we'll do the registration page. So Jay Anderson, Jason Pass, and 4, and I believe that's correct for the number. So it's working. Yeah, I put in toString because I guess I can close up. This is an integer, and it won't let you add an integer to a string. In JavaScript or PHP or Python it would, but it won't here because it's strictly typed. So we don't need that part, but that was just a test. So I need to close this. So I'm going to do one other little thing. I'm going to put down below this. Actually, I'm going to put it on the page. So default ASPX. I'm just going to really quickly, from the toolbox, I'm going to add a link button. And again, you don't have to use a link button. And I'll go into the source and work with this. So I think I might just leave it as link button 1. But I'm going to change a couple of things. I'm going to do target. Actually, what is it? It's postback URL equals, and I'm going to just do the register ASPX. So let me break this so you can see it. And then I will say register for the text. It's just like putting in a hyperlink, which you could certainly do, and a hyperlink would work just as well. The only thing a link button has is if you ever need to refer to it in code, or if you want to add more functionality than just the hyperlink, you can do it there. But it's essentially just a hyperlink at this point. So the reason I did that is just so that I can, when you at the login, if you don't have a login, you can click to go register, right? Because right now we have no way to navigate anywhere. The other thing, I never do it in this class, but in real life, if you're ever going to do this, whether it's ASP or not, you should wireframe everything. Figure out what your pages are going to look like and what the navigation is. Everything that you've learned in all of your web classes still applies, right? I just don't do all that because that's a lot of work. And I'm just going for the code. But everything you've learned is still accurate. Can you see?
I thought mine is not opening. I don't think it's because I'm not on the local host. Let's just do that again.
So you should be all right. So let's see what's not opening. So it says there's a number. Where are you? Is your service ready? No, not the capital. It needs to be. Yeah, leave it running. Leave it. Right, because as I said, if we had configured it in the real world, it would be an IIS.
There's a lot of connections.
Yeah, that's the data.
Because they were run together. Is it better now?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so let's go to the registration page. So first of all, let's look at the ASPX part, which it's still not going. What does it have now?
This is not only just yeah, don't write it. Is it 220?
That's an error you get in the runner from the wrong page. Services running. Well, when they're there,
It's not.
Oh, you know what? That actually could be the problem. This should actually be done.
I always go to them, right?
Right. And then add new ones.
Okay.
Yeah, because it was in the wrong folder.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Are we ready for the next part or yet? So the part I was going to talk about on the register, so I imported this. So what I have is username, first name, last name, email, password. These are all part of a table. Again, you don't have to do a table. You can just have the prompts and the text boxes. I also, and these aren't necessary if you're going to build it right now. I also have the validation controls. It was because of the validation controls that I needed to add the scripts, right? If they weren't there, I wouldn't need to add them yet. You do want to probably validate though. So when I look at the, I'm going to look at the source real quickly. We just start at the top. There's a H1 register, and then I start a table, and I have the username in the text box and the required field validator. First name is just the third cell is empty. Another table with last name, text box, and a required. Email has two things, required and the regular expression. Do you guys remember all of that? Do you need anything go over? Because we could go right to the code if you have this page. And you could recreate this page if you want and add your validations in again later. In the code, I commented all of this out. But there's only one thing we need to kind of change here. Anybody know what that would be? Yeah, the database is wrong, right? So these first two lines probably need to, I'm going to uncomment them real quickly. We probably need to get rid of that. And it's a little bit different the way we did it, right? Because instead of these strings, although we can do that, I think what we want to do, I'm going to delete those. I want to connect to the community, the service. So it was book review, book reference, and then we want the client to actually, we do want the client. Book review service client SC equals new, and again I'll just do that. So we want that. We also want to get the class. Remember we were going to send, I think we created the, actually I don't remember, did we created the reviewer light, right, to pass to this? So I'm going to do book review reference dot, and we got book info. I think it's just reviewer for this, so let's just do reviewer. And I'm going to say review equals new book review reviewer. So one of the things we've got, one is this gives you a connection to the methods, but directly from the reference we can get the classes that are there. Does that make sense? Reviewer is a class that was in the data entities, so we're getting access to the data entity class there. And then what I'm going to do, so let's actually just, I'm going to take that reviewer and I'm going to just say rev dot, so let's do username equals user. So I'm just going to use, since I assigned them to strings, I can just use them. Rev dot reviewer, well, I guess last name doesn't matter a whole lot. first. Where's the last name? Ah, okay, right above me. Equals last, although I had first there. That's okay. Rev dot reviewer first name equals first. Rev dot reviewer email equals email. And rev dot password. So we want plain password equals password. Okay, so we've created an object, we've assigned those fields, and you could assign the text boxes directly to this if you want. If you don't want to go through the creating a method for that. And then in the SC, so I think it returns an int, or did it return a bool? I don't remember. Bool result equals SC dot register reviewer, and it takes a reviewer, so I'm going to pass in rev, and it does return a Boolean, so that should be good. If result, what do we do if they're registered? I mean, if it's good. Yeah, we could take it to, let's do response redirect. And then just do default ASPX. We can take them to the login. Else, there's a error label, right? Yeah. A whole nother layer of this is that you should figure out what the actual error is and forward it. But well, right now we're just doing a. So the parts that are different. All right, this part I left. We did this so because it was easier to pass it to the stored procedure. But we don't have direct access to the stored procedure. The service has access to the stored procedure. So what we're passing to the stored procedure is a reviewer class that contains all the information bundled together. So basically what we need to do is to take all the information from the text boxes and write them to that reviewer class, and then pass that reviewer class to the method in the service. It will return true or false, if it's good or bad. So let's see what happens if we register somebody. Are you guys okay with that so far? Yeah, I just said something went horribly wrong. If you imported your own, your names might not match, right? Yeah. Okay. You ready? So, and I will post all of this, of course. Oh, so I have an error. What is my error? I have a semicolon missing. Where? Ah. That's interesting. All right. So let's go to register again. No? What am I missing this time? Now I have a curly brace missing. Oh, how did I lose those? The curly brace and the semicolon. On the login page, I wasn't even there. How did I lose them? All right, so we have our registration. Whoa. And again, all those things work, right? Because I added the scripts, so those all work. Actually, if I hadn't added the scripts, I would just have a page full of errors because it would say they can't use those. What do we want to do for a user? Am I in that database yet? I don't remember. Oh, let's add Lisa Sandoval. I'm pretty sure this is not a real email address for her. Password, I'll just do, it's easier to say Lisa Pass. And then I'll confirm it. And you could, if you do the password mode, it'll block those out too. So I'm going to submit that, and it goes there. So it should have worked, right? So we're in the login now. Let's just real quickly, let's do, was that what I did? It's interesting, it's remembering those. And it says welcome, so the login worked. And let's just real quickly look at the data. So I'm going to kill that and then just do Server Explorer, Reviewer, show table data, and there's the Lisa Sandoval at the bottom. So it added, it worked okay. So we sent the class to the service wrote it to the database. Okay. And I think that we were going to do a book review, but a book review is actually a pretty hard thing to enter. The reason why a book review is hard to enter is because there's so many sub-objects. There's the book. Like if the book doesn't exist, you need to do a new book. If the author doesn't exist, you need to add the author to the list of authors. So it's really complicated, much more complicated than I'm asking you to do anything with. So I may just do something simple. We could add another book, or we could add a author. Or I could just go do a list of books. Well, we should show an ad. Let's do something a little bit. I could cheat on the review and just do a review where it ought to just enter. You just do an existing book, existing author. I'll show you how to go get the other stuff. You want to do that? No questions, no. What is our time like? We're running low on time. We may have to finish this next week. I'll try though, let's do a simple review. So I'm going to go to the Solution Explorer. I'm going to add another web page. So web form. And I'll just do this as new review. And this is going to be, even no matter how I do this, this is likely to be more complicated than what you would have to do. All right. So I don't have direct, actually there's nothing to do, add a review. Do I have to add a review? I probably can't do that. So if I go to the service, Let's look at this. I can get books, and I can get books by author. I can't do a review. So let's don't do a review. Let's just get the books by author, or get books first and then get books by author. I would like to show you how to do that. Well, the registration is similar to how you would do the new grant. You just pass in the class, right? And then it has it's a lot like the register. So I'm going to go back here. I'm just going to, I'll leave the new review. I'm just not going to do anything with it. Let's do get books. And let's just do, should we get all the books or just get books by author? Let's just do get books by author. So I'm going to add a web form. And I'll just say get books. Maybe we can do both. Actually, get books. This should be all right. I am going to just have a field here. I'm just going to say like P. Enter authors. Or actually, let's do this a little bit. This will be more fun. Sorry. I'm going to do a drop-down list. I'll call it author drop-down list. And then I'll just do a data grid, a grid view. So I'm just going to press enter. And I'm going to go down to data, and I'll get a grid view. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you select the author, and then we'll display the books for the author. Rather than type it in, because if you type it in, you're going to misspell it, or I will. All right. So just those two things, because I think I can do this before we're out of time. I'm going to go into design. A couple of things I'm going to do. And again, this actually is not super close to what you guys have to do, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. I'm going to enable auto postback. You guys remember what that does? We did it like once before. So what happens is it allows this, when I make a change here, to automatic, it makes it behave like a button. The other way is to do a button. I'm going to then double click the drop-down list, and we'll get a method, which is the selected index changed. So first, though, I'm going to do it in the page load. And what I'm going to do in the page load is basically I'm going to fill the, well, actually, let's just call it from page load. Let's do a private or protected void fill author list. And one of the things that I think I'm going to do is at the very top of here, I'm going to make the connection. So it'll be book review, or book reference dot book review service client. So I'm declaring it a class level so I can access it everywhere. Do I have a get authors method? No. So that won't work unless I get I'm going to go to here to the get author. I'm going to add a method real quick. Well, I can do that, but then I think I have to just type in the author name. And I want to basically just be able to return the author. This will only take a second, but I know I'm doing all sorts of bizarre. So I'm going to list author. And I'm just going to say get authors. And that's not going to take any arguments. And then I'm going to go to the book review service. I'm going to implement the interface. So there should be a get author method somewhere. There it is. I'm going to say var auth equals from a in db.authors. I think I can get away with this time with just select a. Because there's, I don't think it'll do sub. It may not allow this. Semicolon. Let's see what happens with that. I'm going to test it here, and then we'll, if it works. It may not work. Yeah. Oh, I have to change the interface. I'll post the service again too with the change if it works. So I'm just going to return a string of the author's names. And I think this will work. Yeah, see, it did. It worked. It returned all the authors. The reason it wouldn't return author as an object is that author has an array inside of an array, right? Because part of the thing that the data entities thing does is that every author has a list of all the books that they're associated with. So that's why it won't work. But this works because I just returning a string. Now, so I do need to run this actually. This actually can be useful. And I think this will take only a minute now. So it's running. When I go back to the client, how do you update it, right? Because I've changed the service, and it has an old definition of the service here. So if you right-click on the service, you can update service references, and it will actually, it'll update everything, and now it should include that new method. So in the drop-down list, I should be able to make string, lowercase, square bracket, authors equals sc dot get authors. And this is a weird thing. It's a list on the service side, but it's an array on this side. And it took me a lot of fumbling with errors to figure that out. And then I'm just going to say drop down list 1. Actually, it's author drop down list dot data source equals authors. And then I bind it. Okay, and I might also do just list item equals new list item, choose author. Which should be 2 words. Author drop-down list dot insert. No, that's not it. Oh, dot items dot insert. Zero, and then item. So what I'm doing is I'm putting this at the top of the list because otherwise the top item won't select. So when I run this, and then I'll walk back to it. No, there's nothing in there. Why is there nothing in there? That's weird. Nothing. Oh, I know why. Anybody know why? Because I'm in a hurry. Because I didn't call the method. Because I put it in the wrong place. So it might be time to wait and finish it next time. Okay, so now it should read it. I shouldn't need that. So choose author, and then there's all the author names. So I'll finish it next time. That error is from before. But it's literally going to take 5 minutes to finish, so the rest of the time will be open around. But right now we're doing. I'll post this. I'll also post the service up again because I did make a change there too. And we'll talk through it a little bit next time, and then Open Labs. The client is easier than the service. It is. So, yeah. That last part I did.
Oh, yeah, I lost everything. I'm really sure that if we're, we had to do it. And then it's not opening my, there's no more now.
So when you run that,
It's by me. Oh, cool. Oh, wait, I'm gonna look at everything.
so in your
No, not Amy.
So that's.
Yeah.
I'm going to delete the two boxes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's it.
All right, so I'm gonna post these and then I will. Have a good weekend, by the way. It's supposed to actually be nice this weekend. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Let me just kill the video.
Oh,